Hello and welcome to Remote Learning Hacks. I am Ann Lewis with the South Dakota Discovery Center. And today I am very excited to have Craig Hemseth, high school biology, environmental science, and anatomy teacher from LaPorte, Iowa, here. And he and I are going to chat a little bit about how to use the nature journal in a remote learning situation. Craig, tell us a little bit. First of all, thank you for coming
Of course.
and giving some time. I know teachers these days are really busy, and probably the last thing they want to do is spend more time on the computer. But so your gift is duly
Of
appreciated.
course.
Um, but let's talk a little bit about your situation. You kind of had a unique pivot to online learning. Tell us a little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, well, in mid-March when everything just kind of got slammed into a big pause for all of us, as we, shifted into no school and the buildings being closed and things, that we started off right away with just kind of a voluntary educational opportunities. I mean, it was really just have students, stay engaged with the students, reach out to them, try to get them to keep thinking about our classes, and if they do, great. If they're busy, if other things are going on, no big deal. And part of that, I think, was just because we didn't know if it was going to last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And then after the state officially closed us for the rest of the school year, back at the 1st of May, they gave us the option. We could continue doing the voluntary, or we could move to like required online learning, so the kids could get some course credit or whatever. And our school board, first went with, we're just going to continue the voluntary option, but then they decided to change it and switch to required. So starting really this week, through the end of May, that we're doing, required online learning for all the kids that want to participate. So if they, find themselves too busy or whatever, they can still, withdraw out of classes, no harm, no foul. But, we're there to stay engaged with them and keep reaching out to them and have them keep working through some different curriculum, to try to, do the best that we can to finish out the classes that we started back in March. So this is kind of day 3 of required online learning for biology. Obviously something new, something different that don't have a lot of experience with, but we're trying.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are making it up as we go along. And so you were, quote unquote, lucky to have a little bit of a gap there where you could pilot some ideas. And you went with the idea of nature journaling. Tell us a little bit about how you came to that and how it's worked out for you. What have you learned from that little bit of the gap you had?
I came to the idea mainly as, this all started that I was supposed to, when our school got canceled, that we were supposed to be actually on a beach in Costa Rica with 4 other students working with sea turtles. And 36 hours before we were to leave, we find out that got closed, and then our school got closed, and then everything just came to a big pause. And as we shifted into the online stuff, I mean, a lot of us, my own children at home with their elementary kid or teachers, putting out a lot of typical online resources. Here's some activities, some websites, things to do, and that's great. And I just kept thinking, with my kids and what I want to see out of my students, there's a lot of online resources, and for a lot of us, talking with students and talking with other staff, I mean, we had this weird kind of duality where everything got put on pause between school and work and everything, but then we're also getting bombarded with just tons of news and tons of information. So just trying to find a way, if there's something that we can do that's not just more, click, 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 I'm done. So I came to the idea then of doing a nature journal where they can still engage with the natural world, and it gives them a chance to just kind of slow down, make some observations, hopefully focus on these fine little details of insects or flowers or whatever it is, and hopefully ignore the chaos of everything else in the world at the moment, and really just see, how that bee is pollinating the flower or whatever it is that they happen to be observing. So looking at a work like John Muir Laws and all the work they've done with the nature journaling curriculum, just tried to adapt it to my students and our environment and our place.
So what, give us an example of some sort of direction or instructions you gave your students, and then talk about their student work. I imagine since this was voluntary, you didn't have a huge amount of response, but it sounds like you did have some students engaged and working and journaling.
With our voluntary period there, I was probably getting 10 to 15% of my students were engaging somewhat. A few were, really, I was getting stuff from them 3-4 times a week. They're making sort of some updates and things. And I have, a couple of students that have been real diligent. One of the kind of the prompts or things I asked them to do is like, hey, go out and find, it's April, go out and find a tree or a flower or something that's just starting to bud and just keep track of that. How much is it growing and how much is it changing every day? And I got a couple of students that have been making these really good measurements and descriptions of their apple tree, or there's somebody had a magnolia tree and things like how big that bud's grown, and they've been measuring it every day, and they've been, how many flowers are on a branch, and they've been coming up with a lot of details on just the growth of this plant, and they even charted it out, comparing it to the temperature. So there's a couple of days like where it got warm and it grew a lot, and then we had a cold rainy stretch and there wasn't much growth. And so I've had some students, just going really, just going above and beyond, and others, are at least engaging and doing something. And just trying to give them feedback on, how to keep making more detailed observations, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say, I'm really impressed with your motivated students there. Correlating it to temperature and growth.
They really have had a handful that have really gone above and beyond what I would have expected.
Just out of curiosity, are these your typically motivated students? The ones who always turn in the A level work, or were there any surprises? Like, you had a good student, but now you've really seen them shine somehow.
Yeah, I'd say most are the motivated students, that you'd expect to stay engaged and do a good job. And I've had a couple that, I get some emails and some updates from them, and they have some stuff, and it's like, all right, that's great. I wasn't expecting to see that from you, but this is awesome. And they're and they're making an effort. They went out and they were looking at the plants in their yard and making some observations, and that's awesome to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the hard part, I think, and every teacher knows this, is you really don't know what's going on in the students' lives. So, no judgment, no judgment. So now that you're transitioning to this being your curriculum, you've had a chance to kind of feel it out a little bit. What sort of changes did you make? Or have you made any? Did you like start out one way and realize the way it was communicated or what you were asking wasn't legit? So what kind of changes have you made between then and now?
So one is just making things a bit more formalized. Like I had to develop a Google Classroom, to try to keep track of stuff instead of just, real scattered emails and things. So set up some online platforms and just a few more sort of detailed directions. And kind of the biggest change as far as the curriculum is applying it to the next gen science standards that we use in our science department. We're asking the students not just make the nature journal and make some observations, but be able to tie that back into the ideas and the performance expectations and the some of the cross-cutting concepts, to be able to gauge how well they are understanding ideas of diversity or energy or environmental change. If they can, within their observations, if they can actually pinpoint that, hey, I've seen this change, or I saw different species or whatever it is, to be able to make that judgment that they are understanding some of those ideas.
That's a really fascinating concept, because the performance expectations as written in the NGSS are, pretty focused. Be able to develop a model on this specific disciplinary core idea, and that's all kind of ah, I don't know what else to call it. But the fact that you're still getting those, the science and engineering practices and the disciplinary core ideas, in there, maybe not with the exact performance expectation, and the cross-cutting concepts. My experience is that a lot of teachers really just kind of tack on the cross-cutting concept um, without really making it embedded into the project. And this sounds like a really good opportunity for elevating the idea of like energy.
Yeah, and I'm by no means, is it perfect? This is certainly a flying by the seat of my pants, kind of thing. And you find out that, oh yeah, by the way, school's done. I figured there's no right or wrong way to move forward, so I might as well try to do something that hopefully is meaningful to the kids. And ultimately, I just want them to make a connection with the natural world and be able to just kind of look out and be like, this stuff's pretty cool. And whether or not they know all the terminology or they know all the the fine details, we can always learn that stuff later. But they need to have an interest and a passion about it, before they can learn the details. So, and if they can make that connection that there's photosynthesis, that's energy. There's different species. There's diversity. It's gotten warmer. It's gotten drier. So we see some environmental change. That's a great place to start, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the outdoors, the backyard for many of us, certainly not all of us, but that's the laboratory outside your door.
Yeah.
Hopefully, most of our students can get to that.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what are you going to keep and bring forward, assuming these are sort of the baseline assumptions that next year we go back, we start in August, September, whenever you start, back in the classroom? Is there anything you're going to bring from that to there?
I think the idea of just sort of journaling or reflecting is something that I've been trying to incorporate more, into my student assessment. And I think it's something that I'll definitely, keep kind of adding in, and just give them the chance to, not just complete the work and answer questions, but really sit down and think, all right, how did this experience, whether it's a traditional activity in class or, something a bit more out of the box like nature journaling, that's, how does that experience sort of impact me, and how am I thinking about the natural world, due to that experience? And and I hope that my students now can at least just take that chance to sort of work slowly, as they create that journal, and be able to just slow down and think about it, and what does this experience really mean to them. That's something I hope to keep working on, and keep improving, when we get back to a classroom.
Yeah, education for life. I mean, lifelong learner, explorer, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been really, really good. We were talking earlier about how I'm thinking about using nature journals and field journals, and this has been, you've given me some great ideas, particularly relating them to the NGSS. So thank you so much. And if you're watching this via live stream, either currently or later on, if you have any questions for Craig, just put a comment in and we'll make sure it gets connected to him. So any last words of advice?
Try it. I mean, we're in some uncharted waters here, so if you have an idea, if there's something you want to do, now's the perfect time to try it, because why not? We're all treading water, so hey.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, yeah, try it. Words to live by. All right, well, thank you so much. And everybody else, stay safe, stay curious, go explore.
And wash your hands.